So I don't know if you know that, I filed about a month ago, I filed an ethics complaint with the Commission on Ethics against Mayor Welsh for hiring his second cousin to be the development administrator for a $200,000 a year job.
Nice.
And I was like, well, that seems a little bit funny because I remembered the guy, because I live downtown St. Pete.
Yeah.
And he was writing code violations for bars and restaurants, shutting them down at the time of COVID. So I remembered because I had a few interactions with him because I live downtown. And then I'm like, wait a second, he's now the development administrator of the whole city, and I'm in real estate, so I'm like, this guy's got no experience.
It's a nice jump.
Oh yeah, no experience in real estate. So then I do a couple public records requests and see that the city put out a job posting for the position, and they had 35 people apply, and he was never one of them.
Wow.
And then I contacted everybody that did apply, and not a single one of them got an interview. You had a guy from Charlotte, North Carolina, who was their development director for a decade and oversaw 80 acres of development there. Didn't even get a phone call back.
Wow.
And it went on and on. You had the guy right underneath the development administrator for the city, who's there since 2008, applied for the job, which would have been of lateral increase, which is something has municipal experience, had that.
Well, and somebody who's seen the growth,
you investigate
going to happen.
Yeah, never got an interview.
To me, that'd be the best option, given how great the growth has been downtown.
Never got an interview for the job.
Wow.
And so, and then I got a tip that they were related. Corbett and Welsh were related. And so then it took about 3 to 4 days of digging to find the family relation. And there's several news articles that show, sadly, a couple of Ken Welsh's cousins, passed away in a car accident. It was pretty tragic. But it says that James Corbett was the full brother of one of the girls that passed away, Lamoya Welsh. And that was Ken Welsh's first cousin.
Right.
Well, so if you're a full brother to somebody, or full brother, and that person is Ken Welsh's first cousin, by default, I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, but that would be your cousin too.
Genealogist, but
but that would be your cousin too.
Sure.
So that story broke and was in the paper. And the Commission on Ethics actually meets on Thursday to go over the complaint. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Okay.
It was like 20 pages.
So that's still in progress.
Yeah. So it was 20 pages. So then I got a call, from someone that wants to remain anonymous that says, "Hey, I think Councilmember Bowman moved out of their district. I don't know much about it, whatever. Here's a couple news articles of like her legal name. Can you look into it?" So, I said, "Oh, okay, let me take a look." And you start peeling back the onion.
Wow.
And then, here's the warranty deed. Boom. Here's her mortgage filed with the clerk of court. Boom.
Yeah, because even if you happen to live in St. Pete, as we were talking before the show, she doesn't run on her actual, as we would say, government name.
Yeah, I mean, so her legal name is Talisha Bowman.
Got it.
And she goes by Lisa Wheeler-Bowman. So, I found out she moved out of her district. Well, I didn't really necessarily want to believe it at first.
Sure.
So then I kind of dug a little bit deeper, pulled the voter registration, went to that address. You'd have a hard time finding her here, they said. I'm the only one that lives here.
Oh.
So wait a minute. Her actual address is wrong. You're saying her actual address on her filing paperwork with.
So there could even be voter fraud here.
Correct, because the SOE confirmed that she voted in the primary, but she was already into the new house, which is outside of the district.
And didn't do an address change.
And voted in the old precinct.
Wow.
So that would be,
So now, aside from,
I'm not the state attorney.
No,
but,
I mean, but
so she's now had to resign because she moved, but also may have committed
that
voter fraud.
might have been a crime. Yeah, she might have committed a crime.
And so, I then went by the house and hired a private investigator to run, her plates and everything like that. Because I like to be very thorough when I do something.
Well, I mean, there's serious accusations.
Right. So the private investigator confirmed that it was her husband's cars. And so I went to the address on file for where the cars were registered because they weren't registered to that address. And, they moved out in November at that address. But state law says that you're going to change your car registration within 30 days of moving. So they didn't do that.
So they haven't done that either.
Yeah, just piling up the charges.
Wow.
State Attorney Bruce Bartlett, if you're listening,
Yeah.
Well, she probably didn't want to do that because. But she did. Attention. But she did change her address, though. She filed a homestead exemption. Where's her homestead exemption?
At the new address outside of her district.
Well, because the loan is under her name.
Right, and it's a VA loan, and the VA loan stipulates that it has to be your primary residence.
Sure.
So I said, when I went to the city council, I said, either facts are stubborn things. Either Lisa Wheeler-Bowman is committing mortgage fraud, or she's in violation of the city charter, and per the charter needs to be immediately removed from office.
And so, per the city charter, immediately? Is it immediate?
It says in the charter, if the council member moves out of the district in which they were elected to, shall be immediately removed from office by city council.
I do remember that being in some of the news coverage we've already seen. That one of the other city council members had to read that letter of resignation, or just state that she had resigned.
Right. So then I went to the council meeting on Thursday, and I wanted to verify that the car that's been at the house was in her parking spot at City Hall. So once I had that documented, I sent off because it says that they have to be given written notice that they're in violation of the charter, and then the council can start the process. So I wrote a letter stating, hey, you bought a house, used a VA loan, has to be your primary residence, consider this your legal notice, and you should be removed from office immediately. So once I sent that email off, I had, people in the council meeting, and they said it was you started to see people on their phones and laptops started, things started happening kind of behind the scenes. And then it was the Pledge of Allegiance and then prayer. And then Councilmember Bowman then left the meeting. And then a few minutes later, the city attorney left. And then a few minutes after that, the city clerk left. And then I went into the meeting. And then the city clerk finally came back. The city attorney and Councilmember Bowman didn't. But then somebody came and grabbed Lisa's stuff and left the meeting as well.
Wow.
And the city clerk, who I know, kind of hey. Kind of, gives me a little head nod there of I'm in the back.
So needless to say, no outdoor dining for you for some time.
All your projects are getting denied.
That's right.
I won't buy any houses.
They're coming through. Hey, we saw you throw that. We saw you throw that piece of paper out there. That's a $500 fine.
Leave the trash can outside.
Something fell out of the back of your truck. That's another $500.
And that's got to be tough, right? Because again, it's you don't want to be the one. Causing the big stink. But at the same time, the rules are the rules,
right?
And again, what's crazy about the story is that this is just like the surface,
right?
The more that you have kind of dug into this, the more layers of other things wrong you're finding in all of this going on.
So now it's timed up with the city. We have our redistricting commission, which looks at the districts every 10 years to change the districts on city council with the census. So it just so happens that the council member Bowman, her appointee to the commission, Pastor J.C. Pritchett, he was the only one lobbying to move Lisa's district into the new neighborhood where she bought her house.
Right.
So he went over the highway, above another district, and then into another district. So he crossed through two districts and a highway to include this neighborhood.
Now, are they in the middle of redistricting?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
But you're going.
But he's also involved. He's on this committee.
He was appointed by her to serve on the committee
to try to help
conveniently.
Right. Try to
and then his son is her legislative aide on council.
Oh, jeez.
The pastor's son.
Right. So the pastor's son, who just graduated college in May.
Yep.
He has a lot of experience.
Sure.
Was appointed to be the legislative aide to Lisa Wheeler-Bowman back, in June, right before she bought a house.
Well, and politically speaking, we also know the value of having a pastor really to vouch for you.
I was just getting ready to say, look how she's using him and look how he's willing to be used.
Sure.
She gave his son a job, and it's on city money.
Well, and how he's also using her.
With city benefits.
Yep.
It's probably a decent gig. And then he's going to get appointed to this thing, and he's going to push for the district to change, probably going to bring his congregation in on that, and say something how the district needs to represent us, blah, 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 whatever, and push for that. And then he gets some credit because he gets a little bit of deference for being a pastor. And then she's using him for that, man.
And I'm sure she's probably been a member of his congregation for a long time.
I don't know that.
Wow. But, right. But in regardless, not that matters a whole lot.
She chose to buy a house when she bought it outside of the district.
Right.
She could have waited till redistricting was done. But actually, is redistricting not in any way an argument that she gets to make? I'm not I'm not defending her. I'm just curious.
Sure.
I'm surprised that she's not bringing up redistricting. Well, we don't know where the lines are going to fall. Oh, okay. Well, after
redistricting, regardless,
it is. No, it is. I'm just saying that she could have claimed, "Well, we're redistricting." She still moved out of the district in the middle of the district lines. Either way it goes, she still moved out of the district.
Because what are the odds? Again, for those of us who don't know really the kind of map of St. Petersburg that well, what are the odds that where she now lives would fall within that district?
Well, so her district was like 275 west, to like 49th Street, down to like 22nd Avenue South, like Gulfport area.
Okay,
so kind of a chunk, 275, 49th Street South. To 22nd.
The 275 kind of being that border.
Right. So, that's kind of typically, those are major intersections, major roads that typically you would follow on a map.
Yep.
Well, so he was lobbying to have it cut over the highway east 3 blocks, which was above another district.
Sounds like a congressional district.
So why wouldn't you just move that one district up a little bit?
Yeah.
And then into a second district. So it's not like you're just bumping into one. You're going through 2 districts to include this house. And it's not like it ended at a major road. It was just like a regular street.
Yeah.
How dumb can you be as a politician to purposefully take out a mortgage and make it your primary residence outside of the district that you can't do that?
Well, she said she didn't know.
Do it.
She said she didn't know in the stack of mortgage paperwork that she didn't know it had to be her primary residence.
You know your address.
Right.
Oh, she means in the chartered paperwork for becoming a city council member.
So when she resigned in her resignation, she said in the stack of mortgage paperwork, she didn't realize that I had to make this my primary residence
for the purpose of the mortgage, for the VA mortgage. Yeah. She didn't realize.
So claiming like it wasn't mortgage fraud and not defrauding the VA.
Which had she known, she probably would have done what a lot of people do, which is they'll have a home in the district, that they don't actually live in, but it's under their name, and then they actually live somewhere else.
Well, she's trying to avoid voter fraud,
Of course.
It's like saying like, oh no, I was really living here. I was already living here. But then we have videos, which the reporter, said in the Tampa Bay Times article, well, there's videos of her dancing in the new kitchen, and the photos that match, realtor.com.
Oh, geez.
So it's like, well.
They had somebody post it outside her house taking photos.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's her own photos. It's
from social media.
Oh, it's her own stuff from social media. Got it.
And then they pulled like the comparable photos that were listed for sale.
It's clearly her house.
Yeah. And that was before voting.
Well, she's making that city council money now.
Right. Well, I suggested that she should pay back the taxpayers for the last 2 months when she should have immediately resigned after buying the house.
Of course.
She should have to pay back that money.
She just thought she was going to skate through. She just thought no one was going to be none the wiser, right?
Yeah.
She just thought.
But obviously, it seems like her problems are just getting started.
I don't have an axe to grind against her.
No, you're not the one initiating this. Other than the resignation, which again, somebody had to bring it to light.
Right.
But all this other stuff that she has done, intentionally or unintentionally.
So when's the election?
That's right. So, that's the next step. So I believe the council appoint somebody, don't
Within
they?
45 days.
Oh, they have to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then the next,
that's convenient.
And then the next election.
It ain't going to be you.
I don't live in the district either.
No, I ain't.
Well, that's good because, it doesn't seem like you kind of had an edge to gain.
No, I don't live in the district. I'm not, involved
But
in
it's
that.
interesting how you as a businessman, you have every right to be concerned about who is regulating you.
I pay a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
I have a lot of properties in the city and pay a lot of of taxes.
And you have a right to be concerned about who is it that's regulating your industry. Are these competent people, these bureaucrats? Do they know what they're doing? You look into who's doing this, and you're like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't seem to have any experience. The next thing you know, you're like, oh, where does this lead? Where does this lead? And it leads to a council member who doesn't even live there.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Mayor Welch seems to be doing a lot of strange things.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I would say is probably rubbing people the wrong way in the city.
Well, he scrapped the whole plan for Tropicana Field and that whole property.
That was coming, whoever the new mayor was going to start that over anyway.
Yeah, because they all want their thumbprint on it.
Exactly. But the biggest thing that's bothering me and so many voters of St. Pete, and if I could get one message to Ken Welsh, don't kill the Moffett deal. He literally killed the Moffett deal in downtown St. Pete.
That's so crazy.
And Moffett has a $2.5 billion economic impact. And it's like, nah.
Yeah.
We don't need Moffett downtown St. Pete because they were a difference.
Not to mention like how amazing it would be to have it right next to Johns Hopkins, right next to
Children's Hospital,
All Children's,
Bayfront,
USF. I mean,
they're going to build a campus there. Like their premium gem was going to be downtown St. Pete. It was going to be a huge campus. And it was because they said, we're going to do, they're going to build like 200 units of housing there for, transient, people that need care, doctors, nurses and stuff. So they said, well, we'll set aside 10% of the 200 units that we're building for affordable housing, that the city can work with and, put in people that need housing there. Ken Welsh gets into office after, Mayor Kreisman baptizes the deal. Even the, CBA, the Community Benefit Agreement, which is essentially like the equity police in St. Pete, they even gave the deal the blessing.
Wow.
And so now they said, hey, Ken Welsh came in and says, well, you need to do 30% of affordable housing. And they're like, well, that's a lot, 30% of 200 units.
It's huge.
And, we're just taking that as a straight loss. They're like, we'll come up to 17.5%. Nope, not good enough. You can't build here anymore.
Wow.
And it's killed the deal.
Wow.
Wow.
And 1 in 4 Americans die from cancer too.
Right.
Yeah, because they wouldn't pay the crown, really.
Yeah.
They're going to build it.
Right.
But they want to be told to give over housing. And because because a private corporation, well, I guess it's actually a nonprofit, right?
Right.
Because they wouldn't build something and they build housing and then give it over to the city as payment.
Yeah. Well, hey, Vincent,
crazy, man.
We'll definitely be having you on for an update, and then the door's always open. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
When are you running again?
Yeah.
Whenever you write a check.
Whenever I write a check?
I'm just kidding.
No, seriously. I mean, is there any chance?
Any timeline or?
I'm focused on my business.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of tips over the last month and so of more nefarious dealings. So there may be a couple more stories.
Yeah.
That we're working on.
All right. So 2024. Got it.
All right.